take Bill's portfolio, put in your portfolio at 5%. When it goes to 10, cut it in half. When it goes to 2.5, double it.
Double it. Yeah.
And it's just a way to keep things in kind of risk bands. And over time, if you had done that, you would have been buying him when he's getting crushed, which was the right time to buy him. And you would have sold him multiple times over as he lagged up. And yes, you would have had FOMO and said, damn, I wish I didn't sell out of this. But it was the right thing to do, consistently take chips off the table.
Or may not have seen the movie Dumb Money. This is where a young man known as Roaring Kitty was responsible for taking out a hedge fund. Yes, the little guy beat the big guy. I want to talk to somebody who's been on Wall Street for 10 years and just ask about the movie, how much of that is real. And of course, today, Roaring Kitty is back and the stock is almost doubled. This is wild. What's going on, Taylor?
Today, the stock has doubled. Today.
This morning, the stock has doubled.
Right. The market's been open for 2 hours and they halted trading because it's moved so wildly. This is nuts. It's bananas.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that whole AMC, all of that was wild last time. But I've got to ask, you've seen the movie Dumb Money. You've been on Wall Street. You understand hedge funds, all of that. How accurate do you think the portrayal of what happened to the different characters and the little guy and the big guy running around on his beach house and all, how much of that was like probably pretty real?
I think it was very real. Honestly, I think that all the hedge funds were short on the stock, on GameStop, and then AMC and a few others, right? And I do think that there was this massive contingent of retail traders very, very clearly following one individual, and none more obvious than today. Today, he posted for the first time, and all he did. So he apparently, I didn't get it. I looked at this a little bit. Apparently, all he did was post from a gentleman sitting up like this to leaning in like this, like he was more seriously looking at the stock now for the first time in a while.
No, that's exactly what it was. It was simply a picture, and the guy is seated and he leans forward, and that is set it up. And I said AMC, I meant GameStop. I'm so just wildly watching this. This GameStop thing is crazy. And I remember watching the movie, and that the character, I forget his name, was running around his beach house, and he bought the house next door for a tennis court and all of that. And his wife is asking, how much did we lose today? $1 billion.
Billion.
$1 billion.
The reality is, though, the movement and the pace of that stock, just like today, it's so violent that people can get absolutely torched if they're on the wrong side of it. And I think it is fun to watch and see, now granted, the fundamentals, if you're looking at that company fundamentally, you were out. You would not touch it with a 10-foot pole, and rightfully so. They were shorting it. The fundamentals looked like it was going to zero. But the massive infusion of capital that came via retail traders literally saved that company, and it made a chump out of, was it Seth Rogen? Whomever it was. Yeah. But yeah, it literally took hedge funds down, and it was crazy to see. That was the most crazy kind of just dynamic shift I've ever seen in the market in a short period of time. Everyone was at home. Everyone was looking for, hey, I can work 4 hours a day for my normal job, or I got laid off, or whatever it is, and I got some loose change in my pocket via stimulus checks. Let me figure out how to make a buck here. And literally, they were following him like a drum beat. He was the composer at the front, and this gentleman, Roy Kitty, who is just a regular Joe, totally regular Joe. And if you look at him and I'm not being disparaging to him, he looks like a clown. He's got a headband. I mean, it looks ridiculous, but he had the chorus singing right out of his hymn book.
Yeah, and it's really funny because I actually went back and looked at GameStop's fundamentals. His call wasn't, let's go screw the hedge funds. His call was, this company's going to come around, and it was a horrible financial analysis. It was not a good one. He was right. Don't get me wrong, but the analysis of why GameStop was going to be it's a brick and mortar, sells games in a world of online games. I mean,
correct.
As
fundamentally flawed as you could possibly be. This is CDs. This is what this is.
This is Blockbuster. It's Blockbuster. Blockbuster for video games.
Perfect.
So his analysis was crap, but you just get a little momentum, and you get a little bit more, and you get a little bit more. And
And the
then you,
funny thing was,
oh,
just
yeah,
yeah. So the funny thing was, not only was it just retail traders circling it up, all of a sudden, hedge funds
yeah, they
started
got
to
in.
take notice and hopped on board, right? And that's the crazy thing when the person, because it did become, let's take down the man. Like it absolutely became that. To your point, it didn't start out that way. It was his fundamental analysis. I deem it very flawed, but nonetheless, it was his fundamental analysis that this company was going
Yeah,
to come
it
around.
sounded good, and
Yep.
it was just enough real work. I mean, he did some real analysis on it. It was just wrong. It's Blockbuster for video games. But yeah, once he got in, then it became the little guy, let's take out the big guy. And once you
For
get
sure.
that chorus going, you're not stopping it. And
There's
then
no
the hedge
stopping.
funds come on, and then there are going to be people that blow up, and they did. I mean, there was this one fund that went out. I forget what it was called, but it was
And then
wild.
Pete Davidson in the movie is his brother, the knucklehead brother, and he's like, "What? You're not selling this? You are a moron!" Oh my god! No,
Uh,
I thought the movie was great, and I think, yes, it definitely Hollywood dramatized the whole thing, but I think it was pretty dramatic, and they didn't really have to do that much. It literally took out a hedge fund. That was
yeah.
true, and it literally made this kid a gazillionaire. And it
Do you
made
know
a
if he
lot of
ever
people.
sold? Do you know if he ever sold?
I don't know. And I don't know if it's clear whether he sold or not, right? Is this him hopping back in today, driving the stock up 80% was the last mark that I saw today, just this morning in 2 hours of trading. And
Wow.
this is crazy. This is kind of the scary thing about the stock market is um typically, fundamentals over time drive a stock price. But it is scary the emphasis that gambling or momentum or jumping on a bandwagon can make or break you because it's done both, right? He got axed off Reddit and the price of the thing absolutely tanked. And there was no warning for folks. You saw it in the movie. They're like, oh no, I've just lost XYZ on this, thinking that I had a couple $100,000. Now it's worth whatever it was, a few hundred or whatever. And it's crazy to see that amount of gambling nature is out there because one of the hardest things it is to do, and I've experienced this myself, and I know you have via your trials and tribulations, is to trim a winner, is to say, listen, I've gone enough here. You know, in your mind that this doesn't belong where it is, but it's,
Mhm.
hey, let's hang on a little bit. And then what happens is the price comes back down some, and people's mind trains them to, okay, when it gets back there, I'll sell out.
Yeah, the anchor.
That's the
Yeah.
point, the anchor point, exactly.
I love to. I forget the young man in the Dumb Money video. He didn't. He was one of the people that was in early and up big, and then the stock rolls over, and he's like not upset, and people are asking him. He's like, I sold half my position. I'm good, right?
Love
It's
it.
like there you go, dude. Just trim your like when it's something goes astronomical and you can't explain it. Trim your position, and
Here's how you
yeah.
trade. So like I once worked with this really intelligent guy named Bill Miller.
Mm.
He's a portfolio manager. He beat the S&P 500 for 15 straight years, longest running streak of all time, but he was absolutely a boom by cycle guy. So what we used to say to people is like, listen, take Bill's portfolio, put in your portfolio at 5%. When it goes to 10, cut it in half. When it goes to two and a
uh,
half, double it.
double it. Yeah,
And it's
makes
just
sense.
a way to keep things in kind of risk bands. And over time, if you had done that, you would have been buying him when he's getting crushed, which was the right time to buy him. And you would have sold him multiple times over as he legged up. And yes, you would have had FOMO and said, damn, I wish I didn't sell out of this. But it was the right thing to do, consistently take chips off the table because it did go down 68%, I think, in 2008 was his drawdown, something crazy like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty wild to look at. Again, I think it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. I don't know if anybody ever knows if he sold or not. You would have to think he would. Um, Also, it was really unclear to me if he had any penalties put on him by the government for manipulating or whatever you would call it. Right?
Yep.
Really, the first, like the OG of using YouTube or Reddit or whatever it was to kind of push a stock.
No
Um,
doubt. And he created words. I remember for the longest time because I'm really not in that realm at all, which clearly, maybe I should start paying attention, right? But HODL, I'm like,
yeah.
what
What is that?
what
What
is
is
this?
HODL?
I have no idea what's going on here. And I was seeing it everywhere, and I'm like, what is this? Diamond hands, paper
Yeah.
hands. I mean, logically, I could make sense of that one, but the HODL, I
Yeah.
didn't know what it was for a little bit, and then I looked it up, and I'm
I had
like,
to
oh
look it
yeah,
up too. Yeah. Hold
exactly.
on for dear life. Yeah. I was like, dude, you're misspelling hold. I don't know what you're
Right,
doing.
right. Yeah. So it's a funny
Uh,
one, and it's back. So we'll have to start watching it again.
yeah, I don't know. GameStop, Roaring Kitty. I love the fact that a picture with a guy relaxed, moving forward, doubles a
Just
stock.
just a little leaning. That's all it takes.
All it takes. All righty, folks. There you go. From a 10-year Wall Street veteran who has seen Dub Money, seen the activities. It's going to be wild to watch. Taylor, where can they find you?
This is funny. I literally told someone to watch this on Friday, by the way. Dumb Money. I was like, it's really good. Go watch it.
Yeah.
And then this played out. I hope the guy, I got to circle back. I just thought of that. Yeah. Find us at Life Goal Investments. We're on both Instagram and on TikTok.
Dumb Money is back, baby. Go
Dumb Money's back.
Roaring Kitty.